thousands, in the millions, and we will be. Because it starts right here.
Guilty.
Welcome to Naptown People's Radio, a weekly podcast brought to you by the Indianapolis branch of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I'm your host, Danny Abdullah, and I'm joined by my comrade and co-host,
Derek Ford.
We're here to guide you through the pressing issues facing Indianapolis from the perspective of our people, not our oppressors. And as organizers involved in these issues, we're not just talking about the news, we're making it happen. So today we're joined by Sam Schur and Iris, who are going to be reminding us of the real reason for the season, living wages. Our co-producer, Lucas Lee, sat down with Sam and Iris as they explained the unionization attempt for their Starbucks and some of the challenges that they've met during this endeavor. But before we hear from Sam and Iris and Lucas, let's find out what's happening around the city in the Naptown Breakdown. What's up this week, Derek?
Well, today I really want to focus on the meeting last week of the Indianapolis Local Education Alliance, which of course was created during the 2025 legislative session by House Enrolled Act 1515 to create basically an independent, unelected body that would further oversee and kick out the public of decision-making in our public schools. And I'll just preface this by saying, like, when I moved to Indianapolis in 2016, I was shocked at the complete absence of any counter-narrative to the pro-charter, pro-privatization agenda. Like, there was nothing because by that time, there was over 10 years of evidence demonstrating that they were unmitigated failures, right? Like the consensus, there's no debate within that, right? And I say that, my job title is technically Associate Professor of Educational Philosophy and History. So, I will whip those out when I need to. And when I was speaking at the press conference before the ILEA meeting last Wednesday, of course, the most important thing is to let people know that what they decide in there, that's not the decision, right? The decision will come from the people in the streets. But I wanted to talk about, as an educator, people who value education, right? Where public schools even come from, because it is true, public schools, a lot of teachers are racist because we live in a racist society. The foundations were racist. And really, in the beginning stages, the formation of the United States, there were three kinds of schooling for three kinds of people, right, or groupings. So you had common schooling or education for employment, which was for the working class. And basically that was how they got. Those are the original public schools, right? So that's how they got the tax money from the manufacturers. Mm-hmm. Basically, give us money, we'll send these kids to school. They'll show up to work on time. They won't be drunk. They'll be good citizens. They'll be productive workers, right? Mm-hmm. The second, of course, was what Curry Malott calls enforced ignorance. And that was the educational policy for enslaved Africans, right? Of course, that ignorance was not enforced. They tried to enforce it. Right. You can't enforce that. But, they made it illegal to teach Black people, enslaved Africans, Africans in America, new Africans, how to read, how to write, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And they made punishments particularly harsh for white people who did so. Mm-hmm. And of course, that did not succeed, right? None of this ever does. The third is education for extinction, which was targeted at the indigenous population. And at first that was literal, physical extermination. But they realized that too was unattainable. So then it became, not just as violent, but violent but more figurative. And they began the widespread implementation of American Indian boarding schools in which children were basically kidnapped from their families and taken to these boarding schools where the slogan was to kill the Indian to save the man. And there are, generations and generations and generations of American Indians in the U.S. and in Canada who are still suffering from the traumatic effects of these educational institutions and the crimes there, the murders, the outright, horrific things that they did to the children there. And it wasn't really until after the defeat of the Confederacy in the Civil War. And I asked the crowd there, I was like, when did the Civil War end? And everybody's like, 1865. And I was like, okay, good. Let's ask them that in there. I forgot to do that, but they wouldn't have known. But anyways, so, after the defeat of the Confederacy, a period of radical reconstruction begins, right? And it's the beginning of a true revolution, right? One that is led by Black people, as well as by, white soldiers, white supporters, the Union Army, which is integrated at the time. And they made tremendous educational achievement in such a rapid period of time that it's almost unthinkable today. Right. So, the most important thing, was that the soldiers were there to provide infrastructure, right, to occupy the southern states, because without that, none of this would have happened. But just to take one example, by 1870, the education system had spread throughout the South with over 40,000 schools and almost 100,000 teachers educating almost 300,000 students. In South Carolina, the Constitution was amended to mention education. So we don't have a right to education in the U.S. Constitution. So South Carolina, they amended theirs to include that as a right. And by 1870, there were around 16,000 Black students and 11,000 white students attending integrated schools. Within 5 years after the end of the Civil War, there were that many Black and white students attending schools together. Wow. Being taught by Black and white teachers, right? But it remains an unfinished revolution, right? Because it was overthrown by individual and state acts of terror and a privatization, just like what the ILEA is doing. In fact, the corporate takeover of Black school boards in the 1890s was a primary way that the racist interests could push back the progressive gains of Reconstruction. So, wherever there's oppression, there's resistance. So then, we have the landmark 1954 Brown v. Board of Education ruling, with ostensibly making, segregation illegal. And of course, they did that because they had to, because the entire world was looking at the United States like, what the hell? You are so backwards. But they also began to roll that back. And interestingly, what do you think the response to that was? Okay, so now we got to have integrated schools. So what was the, ruling class, right-wing, racist response to that? School choice.
Right.
So now I want to have school choice. Give me those charters, give me those vouchers. Yep, you can do your integrated schools, but my kids are going to white schools, right? That's actually where the origins of all this lie, in a response to the forced segregation of schools. And we're not against Black people having the right to their own schools. That would be part of reparations, right? As far as I'm concerned, at least. I'm not speaking for the party here. And so, I think it's like, that's an important context to remember, right? Because what the charters have done now is they've co-opted this language of self-determination, and if you look at who's on this board that is, again, unelected, and where they come from, and who they are, you learn some things. So let me say first, the alliance is made up of Mayor Hogsett.
Oh, well, say no more. Okay.
Basically, and a lot of his appointees. Now, Mayor Hogsett, what are his credentials in education? has he studied education? Has he read a book about education? I don't know.
I highly doubt it.
Maybe we'll report back next week, but I would bet $100 that it's zero. And then we have, there's like a superintendent in there, right? But the superintendent is a graduate of KIPP.
Oh, okay.
So you know about KIPP. So what you know about KIPP?
Yeah. I mean, KIPP is, first off, KIPP's a charter school, right? Like,
yep.
Actually, my niece graduated from KIPP last year, and does not have any good things to say about KIPP and the things that they push on the kids there.
Yeah. So. Yeah. In my time at DePaul, I've had to work through a lot of like, not trauma in the way that you would, but like when kids are realizing like, holy crap, right? Mm-hmm. Like, because they're basically like military style schools.
It is very much so.
And, they're targeting Black and brown communities. Mm-hmm. Like they need discipline. So there's infractions, which by the way, like, that's a legal term. Yeah. I have an infraction in my driving record, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's a legal term. You get infractions and then, suspensions and expulsions. And that's why they have such great graduation rates.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, public schools, they have to take everybody because of the public.
Yeah.
And then, just the fact that like the Mind Trust and all these people, they have to give you gift cards to show up to their propaganda meetings. Like that's like, I thought we learned that lesson in the 90s with like the timeshares, if somebody's going to offer you $1,000 to watch a movie, you know what I'm saying? Like, and eat lunch, like,
yeah. Okay. I'll take $1,000.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But like, I don't even know if it'd be worth it because they're trying to sell you something,
Yes.
You go in, all right, take it. Yeah. But like public schools don't have the resources to do that, and also, a lot of this had to do with transportation and the fact that like, as far as I'm concerned, if you believe in the free market, then your charter school should be able to compete with public schools in transportation, right? I also believe everybody should have a right to public transportation.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I made that comment, I was like, I also would like better public transportation.
Yeah.
Like, why are we narrowing the focus to this? It seems like very myopic, right? Mm-hmm. So, of course, it is worth noting that the only ILEA member who was an IPS parent and teacher was the sole note on the vote that basically we knew would go through, granting, even more power to an unelected board to further erode the power of the Indianapolis Public School Board. And this is following and we've seen what these appointed boards do with I don't know if you recall, the Indianapolis Public Library Board appointed, but they're not there because they're qualifications. Because if they're in there because they were qualified, they'd be voted in there. They have to be appointed in there, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then the final thing is like, I'm sorry, but I don't want Mayor Hogsett. And, he's probably going to hire Thomas Cook. What's going to stop him? That man has no scruples. Bob Bosley, what's he going to do? So all that is to say is that finally, I remember meeting with Dr. Gail Cosby like about a year and a half ago when she was running. And, being like, I'm amazed. Why isn't there any counter narrative? And she's like, finally, people are starting to organize, and wake up to this. And that's been happening. Central Indiana DSA has been doing a lot of it. The teachers union has been doing a lot of it. Our comrade Noah has been doing a lot of it. And we need to see more of this. The Liberation Center is a place for meetings, for organizing, for strategizing, for whatever, and at this point, really, it's not like charter public because, it's hard to tell the difference sometimes, but the real thing is like kids need to go to school. They need quality education. It should be in their neighborhood. They shouldn't even have to take a bus to go there. And we got the money to do it. So let's make it happen.
I feel like that was great. I don't know if I need to say anything to any of that, honestly, other than, Hogsett being on that board, which I was not aware of that, and which is why I'm grateful to, I'm biased, but also I'm grateful to NPR, this NPR, not the other one. But like, those are things we need to know. Cause like, just the question that you asked, what does Joe Hogsett have to say about education? And I mean, like, as intelligent as I think that I am, like, I don't think I should be on a board for education either, right? Like, that is not my background. Like, I'm a parent, so I want to know those things, but like, to be on a board and making decisions about education for children in this city, and that's not my background, that's not my educational background, that's not my forte, that doesn't make any sense. That's great that, maybe you care. I don't think Hogsett cares about the children of Indianapolis. Or anybody, honestly. Certainly doesn't care about the women of Indianapolis. So I can't imagine why he would care about little girls. But yeah, not being the mayor is not a good reason for you to be on this board. And I know we've talked about it's interesting once you like really start digging into things. Like we've talked a little bit about redistricting, and we've talked a little bit about Unigov, but like even Unigov goes back to like that was 1969, 1970, but like that also goes back to that school choice that you were talking about, and like the schools were the one thing that got left out of Unigov, right? Because white flight, they wanted white people to be like, yeah, your kids don't have to go to school with these brown kids, right? And we're seeing it here as well with ILEA. And, shout out to all the union members in ISTA who are working so hard for these kids, for themselves as well, but like for these kids, and to make sure that like we have the right to public education. And that they're not going to just take away our rights, without someone saying something. You're going to hear somebody's mouth, and yeah, shout out to everybody who's been a part of it. Comrade Noah, Gail Cosby, DSA, like you said, has been a part of it as well. Like ISTA, like we cannot like diminish the amount of work that the union members have put into this and trying to show up for the people.
Yeah. Yeah, and like teaching is like an impossible job, basically, know. And it's interesting. There's a historian, David Labrie, and he writes about how like, people in general, if you ask them about education in the United States, they're like, oh, it's terrible. But if you ask them about their neighborhood school, they're like, oh, it's great. And then the other thing I'll say is one of my friends, Wayne, has a really great book, which we have for sale here at the center, called Unequal by Design. And he's talking about, he's working in a Berkeley, in a high school in California. And he says that, and this is the opening. When I taught at Berkeley High School in California, administrators and teachers there, myself included, often referred to a phenomenon called the zip code effect, right? Which basically meant that it straddled two zip codes, right? And graduation rates, educational achievement, et cetera, correlated with what zip code you are from, The number one determinant of economic success in the future is how much money your parents have right now, because that's what the school system ultimately perpetuates, and we don't really need one anymore. Like that's why they're coming for it. It's another public good they can take away from us because like our youth are being defuturized.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so we got to fight back because our youth are smart. Remember the climate strike in 2019, like all these kids, as soon as the high schools and middle schools let out, they came charging onto the State House lawn with so much like energy and like care for the world that I ain't seen Joe Hogsett like try to fake ever,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So the children lead the way, the youth lead the way, the teachers, like you said, the union members, DSA, all the organizations. Yeah, I just would definitely also want to echo that sentiment and giving up my props. It's a long fight ahead, but hey, you never know. It could be over sooner than we think.
That's true. Absolutely. Let's hope it is. So, all right, that's it for the Naptown Breakdown. We will be right back with Lucas, Iris, and Sam.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Naptown People's Radio. My name is Lucas Lee. I'm an organizer for the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Today, I am joined by...
Hello, my name is Iris. I have been a barista at Starbucks for 3 years and a unionized barista for 1 at the downtown Massachusetts Avenue Starbucks location. And my friend and coworker.
Hi, I'm Sam. My pronouns are they, them, and I've been a Starbucks worker for 3 years around the district, and a unionized Starbucks worker for 1 as well with Iris.
All right, great. So we've been hearing that you've been striking recently, and we just wanted to have you both in to, get a perspective on what's going on and what it's really like on the ground, because, some of our listeners might not know. So I would just like to ask you, first off, why are you on strike? And second, what are your demands?
So, okay, Starbucks Workers United has called on us to strike. We're on an unfair labor practice strike. Starbucks has hundreds of unfair labor practice lawsuits actively. I think they have at least 50 in New York alone. It's so that grants us power to strike indefinitely. And the demands that we're asking for, firstly, we're asking for Starbucks to come back to the bargaining table and settle a fair contract with us, to settle our first contract, because we don't have one, to settle their unfair labor practice lawsuits, and to fix their working conditions. Those are the big demands of a strike.
And what drew you both to the union, and why do you think it's important to unionize?
I think for me, it's always been kind of I would definitely be a part of a union if it ever came down to it. And I would always support a union because I think it's just it makes sense, in my head. I don't know. It's always made sense in my head because it's unionize the workers that make the company against the bigger corporations. So for me, when Momo, our main organizer, when she came in and was hey, what do you think about? I'm yeah, sure, that makes sense. Especially I feel with recent times in Starbucks world, with the new CEO coming in, it's just it's just kind of gone downhill, to be honest. It's just we've been seeing so much more changes that just doesn't take into any consideration of our Starbucks workers, and it's just we can see that, we can feel that as the workers, and so it just kind of has made more sense even more now recently than ever, to be honest. So
I wanted to unionize mostly so that we could have protections for the workers. I just felt we would, if we all stood together as all at the time 20 employees against 1 or 2 bosses, that they would take us seriously, because at Starbucks there's no way to hold anyone above you accountable. They're just kind of allowed to kind of do whatever they want. So you can just be treated however unfairly, unjustly, and no one is obligated to do anything about it. So it was very appealing when a union organizer comes up to you and says you can fix this if you stand with your coworkers and demand to be treated fairly.
I think also just to know is I think it's important to see it as in the same thing as protection is yeah, we might have it quote unquote good right now, and I know a lot of people will tend to be well, I don't really see the problems here on
all you do is pour coffee.
Yeah, it's no. Yeah, and then also I feel some people that I know that also work at Starbucks is well, my manager isn't bad, or and that's what we thought at the beginning too. It's we don't really have that bad of working quote unquote working conditions that we see other people do, but it's also it's it's a preventative measure.
That could change at
it's
any
like
moment.
any
and
moment.
There's nothing that makes people in power make them fix it.
Yeah.
Like, if your working conditions change at Starbucks, then too bad.
And like my biggest reason is like fighting the bigger corporation. Like I have gripes here and there, like, you know, on the local level, but it's like at the end of the day, I feel like it's for the bigger picture and for the bigger like idea for all of Starbucks workers across the nation.
I've heard that thing a lot, you know, where just silly people online are like, you know, oh, baristas or Starbucks workers, they're not working class. And it's like, well, you try like a week in a Starbucks location, then tell me what you think after that. Like, tell me if you think it's easy work after that.
I trained at Capitol, and that was I trained at Capitol.
They have
during
like
holiday
a double
season.
drive-through lane and a huge cafe and a huge patio area. So like they can hold so many people at one time. And we work at this tiny store that has like 5 tables inside and a little walk-up window for dogs. So it's really a learning curve to
Really
go to
cool.
a big store.
We just unionized Capitol too, so
Yeah,
that's
so
really
now
another
that the store that you started at
yeah,
and the store you ended at are the same.
full circle moment.
Yay.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the lessons that you have learned over the duration of the strike?
Well, I learned a lot about like how the actual law works around labor rights, which is interesting. It's interesting to me, like I think just because I'm working in it already, so I know how it works, and then you get to learn about the actual law, the camaraderie of it all, because we're already kind of a tight-knit team, and then we unionized and we all kind of took on the labor of like planning and like canvassing, making materials to spread the word about Starbucks Workers United. And during the strike, we've been out for 3 weeks, and the baristas on strike have been running the whole operation, really. We've been like making a schedule, collecting donations for a strike fund. We also have a strike pantry that we're running, so we have to like collect the donations and then like divide them between us, and we have to have swift communication to like have everything run smoothly. So it is a lot of teamwork, and it's a lot of like keeping the whole operation afloat.
Mm-hmm.
I think just over the whole time it's like also learning like the legalities of it too. It's also been really cool to kind of like actually understand it.
Because a lot of the times when you talk about it to your actual like Starbucks managers, they are not educated about it at all.
Yeah.
And so you can say like, your manager is writing you up, and you can say like, well, I actually would like to use my like wine garden rights and have a union organizer present during this conversation, and then they just don't know
like,
what to do
what?
at all.
They're like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Yeah, I think also just like figurative is like, it's been a lot of unity, to be honest. We've gotten a lot closer, and then also just perseverance between everything, because like in just the strike, we shut the store down, but then it's reopened, and we're like, oh, we never thought that would actually happen.
Yeah, we didn't think they would reopen the store.
Yeah, and so that was like okay, we gotta like, very like quick turnaround of like decision making and stuff like that. Like I wasn't like, I know you guys like did a lot more like of that, and I just kind of was like, yeah, because I'm in school, so it's kind of hard to do a lot more than I can. But it's just like, yeah, I feel like Mass Ave has been always known to just kind of like work on its own, run on the shifts rather than like the store manager or anything. Like we kind of all like have a really good understanding of the store, because a lot of us, it's the lowest like turnaround out of the district, to be honest.
Our store has like no turnover rate.
We just
which is so rare for Starbucks.
We just hired 4 new people, and
that's the first time we've hired someone
like
in
new,
like 3 years.
Yeah, since Jada, and so so that was been almost like 2 years since we hired actually new, instead of just like a transfer like the summer. So it's like we can see that like very prevail like out here on the strike, like on the picket line, because it's like we run the shit.
We are, yeah, we were already
We
running
run the
it
shit.
before.
So it's really cool to see too,
I think an interesting aspect of it, like you were talking about, like having the strike fund and the pantry, and then you're talking about like the low turnover rate, is that like you as like workers, like collectively like organizing, you realize like how much like you actually can do, and you're like, oh, we can like basically run this location by ourselves.
Yeah, pretty much.
And like I feel like we knew that before. Like when we were even starting to unionize, like we already collectively knew that we wanted to.
Yeah.
To be honest, it was like a very like
Mass
our
Ave
vote
had
was
actually attempted a
14-3.
unionization once before we actually did. It was just at a bad time, and then we kind of gave up the planning for that and then tried again like a year later, and then it ended up being successful. We went all the way to voting day, and then I believe the count was it 11-3?
I thought it was like 14-3.
Yeah, that sounds closer to correct.
Because it was like a very like
It was a very small margin of people that voted no. We also voted at a very convenient time because they had like the neutrality agreement between Starbucks and Workers United.
it was very different from like out like low-key looking at Capitol's experience and like how a lot went down there, like with like the government shutting down, so they couldn't vote for like a month. Literally like the week before that they were going
And they didn't get to pick the date that they did vote because it was just like the first priority when the government did start back up again.
And then just like a lot of conflict being like
they were able to like actually like union bust a lot more because they weren't obligated not to under the neutrality agreement. And it was just so easy when we voted that I thought that they wouldn't like try to stop Capitol.
And so I also just like I've never really met like fully anti-union people, so that was also a weird conversation to have, being like, I don't know, that conversation of being like, I like, do you not want rights to yourself? Like, I feel like there's only a positive to this, like in my head at least. So it's like weird having that conversation and then being like, I don't like the union, I don't want to be a part of that, and I'm like, how to readjust my brain
like,
kind of to like
now what? Like why not?
I'm like, I just had to readjust my brain to like kind of step into the shoes and like readjust my like conversational skills about that too. So
I feel like we kind of went over it already, but what are some challenges and successes you have like experienced so far?
To be honest, like being like the first store in the district, it's been like it low-key is a struggle to kind of like talk to people from other stores because they low-key kind of be like,
the response is it's such a mixed bag because one of my favorite union activities to do is just like go around to all the other stores and just like talk to them about unionizing, because a lot of them just don't know. I know I didn't know anything. And I didn't even have any like strong feelings about it. Like at first, I just genuinely didn't know. By just like talking to people and like being like giving them your number, just like being open to answering questions is always really fun because the responses are always so like mixed. The first time we went like canvassing, we did like the whole district, and they like gerrymander the Starbucks districts. Wow. Like for some reason. So downtown, like the downtown district is 10 stores, even though some rural districts it'll be like 2 or 3. So we like split it between like 5 north stores and 5 south stores, and we went from Mass Ave to the nearest store, which is Capitol Drive, and they were like kind of receptive, and they were like, we were kind of like waiting for you to like come over and talk to us because we saw that you guys organized. And then we were like, oh, that's so nice. Like that, and then we're so glad that we came then. And then we went to the second closest store to Mass Ave, and we were like, hey, we're from Mass Ave. We just won our union election, and we just wanted to talk to you guys about our unionization efforts. And they were like, they were just looking at me like I said something wrong. And I was like, so if you guys have any questions, just like let me know. And they were like, yeah, we're like not allowed to say the U word here.
You talking about 10th in Indiana?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no. It's,
And I was like,
they're like, don't care, didn't ask.
yeah. And I was like, yeah.
So
I just like didn't even.
are.
Yeah, I was like, well, legally you can say that. You actually can say that, and you probably should maybe if someone told you that.
yeah, I think it's like union has become such a like what's the
People,
word? Like,
I know,
trigger
like
word?
there's so much like misinformation. No one even knows what it is,
Yeah.
and some people just think like, oh, bad.
Oh, bad.
Bad.
Oh, yeah.
Or the only thing they know about unions is that there is union dues, and then they're like bad.
Yeah. Even though, we're trying to have the union dues like less than 15.
Even though
like,
the members of the union get to pick how
Yeah.
much the union dues are.
and like
Like obviously we're not going to make it $200
Yeah.
per paycheck.
in the end, you're still gaining money because we're asking for a raise to accommodate for that too. So it's just like, I don't know. Yeah.
I know specifically with like Amazon's union busting and like Walmart too. I think the amount of money that they spend on like union busting propaganda is like if they just negotiated, it would be less money. Like it's
I'm pretty sure that like throughout the duration of the strike, they have lost like nearly as much money as it would have costed to just like give us
A contract.
the contract. Yeah.
yeah, which I think shows how like scared like corporations are of just like workers getting any remote like sense of power.
Like anything, yeah.
I mean, that's why turnover rates and all of those union like.
That's why all of
unions, like,
those
is so
stores are
high.
unionized. Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
after 5 years of Starbucks Workers United existing, there's like hundreds and hundreds of stores across the country.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just also it's like all of these. It's kind of harder in Starbucks because the turnover rate is so high. So it's like those stores that have unionized like die off type quote unquote. You know, it's like it's kind of hard to like keep those because it's like college job or like just like temporary job.
Yeah,
so,
a lot of people view like service industry or food service jobs as like low value labor, like school part-time jobs that you graduate from at some point to a real job. And they're managed so badly a lot of the time that even if people try to stay there permanently, they can't. So people will leave, and the original staff that had organized and was acquainted with their regional organizer and like knew like legally what they can and can't do and all kinds of that information, when they leave and they recruit new people who, and going forward, managers can recruit and specifically recruit people that like maybe don't know or aren't interested, so that they can just like ignore it and have people that don't know or aren't interested. So especially when we were trying to get strike ready throughout the late summer and fall, we would reach out to stores that were unionized, and they wouldn't even know that they were unionized sometimes. And they,
oh man,
yeah, you have to like start from the beginning and like reintroduce it to people. And sometimes they're not even interested. But it's still kind of like that's hopefully in the future when we have a contract, people can be protected when they come in as a unionized employee, because once your store is unionized, you're a unionized Starbucks, and when you're hired at a union store, you're considered a union barista even if you transfer. So the benefits will be permanent, like when we can secure a contract. But when we're still organizing and we're trying to have like a national campaign and you reach out to these stores that don't even know they're unionized, it's interesting. Mm-hmm. And I personally, one of my goals is to see more like fast food or service industry type of jobs organize. I think that would be so sick. And I think that that's probably an issue that a lot of those places would have.
With all that being said, how can we, and by we I mean like how can like Indianapolis support you?
Honestly, just showing up, literally like
Not shopping at Starbucks.
Not shopping at Starbucks. If that wasn't already clear before like the whole strike.
And honestly, like boycotting Starbucks because their employees are on strike is just like not crossing the picket line. But on a personal level, like if you see people being treated poorly, like if you know that like the employees are not being treated fairly, just don't shop there.
Because like we've gotten a tremendous support throughout these 3 weeks, like something like I didn't expect. Like I thought like here and there, you know, but like leading up to it, we kind of was scared about like donations and stuff, and like not being able to get everything, like because we have coworkers that like need the like you know like need diapers, need
we
food.
have a strike fund. People have been donating to our strike
Mhm.
fund.
It's been really cool.
We have supporters from PSL and DSA just coming out and putting bodies on the picket line with us, and the DSA has been running a strike kitchen for us. So we have tons of people supporting us. Indianapolis can support by posting online. Starbucks Workers United is having a very successful social media campaign right now on TikTok and on Instagram.
Yeah, we've had like members of DSA literally pull up to the picket and just be like, "Hey, I have stuff for you guys." Because sometimes I get scared because like they'll pull up and just like kind of walk up
and we're like, "Hey,
oh, hey." But it's really cool because they'll just be like, "Yeah, I have like toilet paper, I have hand warmers."
Yeah,
like,
hand warmers. Sometimes
us, like,
they
the
just like
bail
chill for like an
file.
hour just to like picket with
Or,
us,
like,
and
talk
it's
to
always
us.
so appreciated. Yeah.
It's like, you know, it's always going back to the grassroots of just like talking to us and like
Getting people out there and informed.
Yeah, and like, you know, like engage with us on, because we have a social media page for our Starbucks. Is it SBWU Mass Ave? Question mark. Shameless plug for our like Instagram, just because like it's also cool to support us there. We've gotten messages on Instagram just like being like, "Hey, I want to unionize my store," or "Hey, I know this person was like from the Kroger Starbucks," and they were like, "Yeah, we're all like we're unionized because Kroger." But and then we had I had a conversation with them about like just their also like them not getting a contract and stuff. And so
I was thinking that like it wouldn't even help that much, like having an Instagram page for a store that's like who cares about the Indianapolis store. And then people were like messaging it like in the first week being like, "Oh, I support," and then like week 2 we were getting DMs like, "Oh, I want to unionize my store." And like which is crazy through Instagram DMs, but like whatever, I guess.
Shoot your shot, I guess.
Yeah, whatever.
So, yeah, it's been really cool to see, to be honest, because it's like I've always been like a very community person, and like seeing this in real time is really cool too. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that there's so much support. So if someone wanted to donate to the strike fund or donate to your pantry, how would they go about doing that?
We have like flyers up on our Instagram page that show the info.
The Venmo, it's a Venmo account. It's SBWU Mass Ave. And that's the name for the Instagram account as well.
And for like physical donations, like I said, people were just showing up to our pickups because we have a schedule posted all the time. So like they can literally just be like, pull up, drop off, and then okay, or like coordinate with one of us.
We also have a donation bin set up for a few more days at the Roberts Park Church.
No, someone said that they don't accept it anymore.
Okay, I lied. Never mind.
No, because someone was like, "Yeah, I tried to go drop by. They said they don't accept it anymore." What?
Oh, okay. Never mind. My bad then.
So I was like, "Dang, yeah." But yeah, no, it's pretty cool though. Yeah.
Well, regardless, people can check the Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
the Instagram
they give
is
live
probably
updates.
the best place. So yeah.
All right. Well, that about wraps up our interview. I just want to thank you, Sam and Iris, for coming out and taking time out of your day to let us know what's going on the ground. And I hope all the best. I might go out there one day and pick it with you, but stay in the fight, realize people power, and thank you for showing up.
No, thank you.
Thank
so
you
much.
for having
Yeah,
us.
thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, and welcome back to Naptown People's Radio. Hopefully you appreciated that interview as much as we did. It's always good to hear about, the people fighting back and trying to unionize. Like, I personally haven't shopped at Starbucks and I don't know how long, but all right. So now we are at the Circle City shout out. So today's Circle City shout out goes to Senna Kirk. So Senna is the leader of the Indian Liberation Center's Emancipatory Motions. So Emancipatory Motions is a yoga practice that repairs the damage of capitalist alienation by reconnecting us with ourselves as beings in complex motion together. Senna is an artist, designer, and obviously a yoga instructor who was born and raised in Turkey. She's also a recent graduate from Ivy Tech and teaches at the Indie Arts Center. So for listeners who are not familiar with Turkey, and the ongoing democratic struggle that is happening in Turkey, it's a really great example of what is possible in the United States. So when the far-right government arrested the mayor of Istanbul, who is the primary political opponent of the far right in Turkey, on blatantly false charges in order to suppress his ability to run, the masses erupted into protests. So the movement spread across the country, sparked an ongoing political crisis. The workers and people of Turkey who have been courageously resisting the fascistic crackdown of the ruling Justice and Developmental Party, or the AKP, on their democratic rights. It's been hundreds of protesters, political activists, and journalists who have been kidnapped simply for participating in a peaceful demonstration in defense of the people's right to political expression, which is, obviously a blatant attack on fundamental freedoms. The use of the law on meetings and demonstrations has been used as a pretext to silence opposition, and exposes the regime's fear of popular resistance and its determination to suppress any challenges to its rule. That's not even to get into the violence that has been perpetrated against the women in Turkey, which has reached astronomical levels. And in response to this, the TKP, which is the Communist Party in Turkey, has established what they call Women's Solidarity Committees, or WSCs, and they established those in 2020. So WSCs were established to fight against the grievances created in the lives of women, to wage a political struggle against the real causes of these grievances, but at the same time to help one another and to become centers of resistance and solidarity. And in some places, WSCs demanded the right to a nursery from the municipal, and in some workshops, they were able to organize and to teach Turkish to refugee women. And in some places, through WSCs, they provided legal support to women who were subjugated to violence. And so I'm using this as an analysis of not only what can happen in the United States if we do not win, but also the background from which Senna is coming from. And, kind of how she goes about yoga, how she teaches yoga, and kind of the philosophy that she goes about it. So Senna takes the time through her yoga practice to remind us of the contradictions of capitalism. Capitalism keeps us stagnant. It keeps us immobile. It very much sucks the life from us. And each time in class, if you go to a class, which you should, but each time in class when Senna tells us, or tells the attendees, to open our chests and to breathe, she is helping us to breathe life back into ourselves. that same life that capitalism tries to take away from us. Typically, when we're at work, we're isolated from one another, and yoga is a group endeavor. We're in this room and we're all trying to keep our balance. We're all trying to figure out the different ways that our body works. And, it's a little painful. I'm still actually in pain, and it's been a couple days, but we're all going through the pain together, just as life is meant to be. Emancipatory emotions is a great reminder that yoga is not just for rich white people also. We do need money, so we ask for donations, but, no one is going to be turned away because they don't have the funds to be a part of this movement. Senna once said that capitalism made her hate herself and her life, and yoga is what made her love her life and herself again. And it is one of the ways that Senna works with the people to fight back against the hooks that capitalism has in us. And, I've said this before and I'll say it again, your gifts, whatever they are, whatever they look like, they are an asset to the people, to liberation. There is no limit to what you can do when we come together, whether that is for a rally or for emancipatory emotions. So thank you to Senna for reminding us of this. Shout out to Senna.
Yeah, shout out to Senna. I love Senna, and I love her way of being in the world. And I loved her statement at our grand opening. And she talked about that. It taught her to love herself, and she also said something to the effect of, oftentimes people say "Well, will I be good at yoga?" And she says, "No, yoga will be good for you, right?" And the pain you're talking about, that's not the pain of yoga, that's the pain of capitalism being alleviated, and so I think, I just wanted to echo that sentiment to liberation. It's not as if I do yoga and I'm liberated and we're all liberated, but it is a bodily and collective, endeavor. And we got to take care of ourselves and each other. I'm not a fan of self-care because that's a capitulation to neoliberalism. But ultimately, the state should care for us. We should, care for each other when we have control of the state. But in the absence of that, we take care of each other at places like the Indianapolis Liberation Center. So you can catch the next session this Sunday, 6 o'clock, 6 to 8 p.m., along with our regularly scheduled programming on Saturday, 9:30 to 11 a.m., Circle City, Sangha. And it's a bit quieter of a week at the Liberation Center, although if you are looking for a last-minute gift, you can go to IndieLiberationCenterStore.com and get a e-gift card that is good for our hundreds of books and posters and other merchandise at the center store. And finally, I want to say that our comrade Shaka had a partial victory in that he was finally, after months, able to receive his property, but he has still not been able to speak with his wife. I just spoke with Akili earlier today, December 23rd. So there's a phones app going on. Go to shakashakur.org to participate in that. And also, please organize a screening of the documentary, because we need to get Shaka's name out there, his case out there, his struggle, his cause, his ideology out there. His book just came out. Danny and I were in New York City. We'll have to talk about that another time for the book launch. Because once we get Shaka free, it'll be a massive step in getting all of us free. And that'll do it for another episode of Naptown People's Radio. If you found today's discussion useful, pass it on, leave a comment, and show us some love at support.naptownpeoplesradio.com. If you have a suggestion for the show or anything you want to let us know, email our producer, Dakota Fronterhouse. You can find his contact information on our website. The road ahead is long, but we walk it together. Study with your comrades, build with your community, and always remember, theory without action is paralysis, but action without theory is chaos. Once again, I'm your host, Derek Ford, here with my comrade and co-host,
Danny Abdullah.
Stay dangerous, stay disciplined, and stay in the struggle.
we trying to create a movement. We got a chance to do something in Indiana that brothers like myself been talking about for the last 40 years. When I first became political and we was organized behind the walls in the 80s and 90s, some of the stuff that we doing now with the different programs and the different institutions that we have and things like the Indy Center is things that we used to talk about and dream about doing. And now we doing them. See what I'm saying? We doing it. And we got to keep that momentum going. And it's also generation. So as the next generation come up, you know what I'm saying, it's on y'all to take it to the next level and take it to the next stage.
Salute.